Mark Twain once said, "It usually takes me more than 3 weeks to prepare a good impromptu speech." And these young people do it in 30 minutes. Joining us today, we have the 3 lower division winners and the 4 upper division semifinalists that are here to give one last speech. We also have the 2 school coaches that have won our Coaches Awards. In a short time, we'll begin our upper division speeches. We do have judges scattered throughout the room. If you would like to, I have also placed impromptu ballots on the table if you want to just kind of see how you do with them. I've also included on the tables a list of this judging criteria in case you're wondering what judges are actually looking for. The 4 participants today will be able to select from a group of topics. Their speech needs to be between 3 minutes and 5 minutes with a 15-second leeway on either side. They can choose from one of the following topics. 1, are people morally obligated to give to the poor? 2, is insanity an acceptable excuse for criminal activity? 3, Plato stated once, you can discover more about a person in an hour of play than in a year of conversation. True? Examples. 4, should parents be held legally responsible for actions of their children? Or 5, should we have imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum imports? Those are their topics. Our first contestant today is Hannah Littler from Basis Ahwatukee.
Hello, my name is Hannah Littler, spelled Hannahlittler, and my topic today is topic number 1, are people morally obligated to give to the poor? In one of the most amazing musicals, Hello, Dolly, featuring Barbra Streisand, we find a boisterous matchmaker and 2 boys that are in love. As shopkeepers, they inspire to find romance by traveling all the way up to Yonkers, New York. In this, we find not only musicals and laughter, but we also point to a very distinct action of between the rich and the poor. So when we look to the topic today, of are people morally obligated to give to the poor, we have to ask ourselves, what do we need to give? And the answer and the extent of what we give and what we're morally obligated to give can depend differently for you and me. But at the end of the day, the answer is that we are morally obligated to give to the poor, whether it be a decent ounce of human kindness or even a monetary donation. However you interpret this, by giving to the poor, not only do we promote personal growth, but we promote growth within our communities to inspire change and a better future for tomorrow. When we give, we promote 3 things. First, selflessness. Second, connection. And last, cyclical giving. But first, the act of giving in itself is altruistic. We give something without anything in return, whether that means saying hello on the street, dropping a few dollars to a new person, or even sitting down to understand someone's story different from your own. That personal act of giving is selfless in itself. It promotes a personal growth within ourselves to be better human beings, but second, also helps the people that are involved. An instance of this is haircut trucks. Now, hairstylists across the nation are working together to find trucks that travel around to cities, finding people that are in desperate need of haircuts. It's a simple thing that we take for granted far too often. The slick trim, the little bit of a snip here and there, that can mean the difference for making someone's entire day. Whether it may not solve everything in their life that may be going wrong, by giving to the poor in this aspect, these people are reaching out to their communities. They're taking the action and they're recognizing that what they have, what they take for granted far too often, is something that they can give to others. And in that selflessness, they are promoting their own personal growth, but also helping everyone in their communities by inspiring those people who may be down on their luck. But second, with this selfless act, we also find connection between human beings, not only by sitting down and reaching out to other people, but also through the stories they tell. An instance of this is Humans of New York. By going onto the streets of New York or even beyond, even globally, they sit down with others and understand their stories. Often this means discussing with homeless people or people that are just down on their luck. By reaching out, sometimes monetarily giving, or even giving the gift of listening. By that moral obligation and fulfilling that moral obligation, they're stepping outside of their personal comfort zone, their personal bubble that informs everything around them and what they perceive the world to be. If we're helpful and we want to solve solutions in our world, we need to understand that the world just doesn't revolve around us or the communities that we may be protected in. We need to reach out to others as the streets of New York do and look to others that may be down their luck, and understanding their stories and their histories promotes our personal understanding of what it means to be a human being, but also provides solutions and ways of creating change for those that are in poverty or have issues. But the last way through this selfless act and well as connection that we face, we also provide the act of cyclic giving. It's the gift that keeps on giving. By fulfilling our moral obligation to giving to the poor, what we do is we inspire others to promote change. One instance was that I went to the holiday Broadway princess parties to watch listening to different Disney songs, and in that there was a young lady who really desperately wanted to be there. But when her bill came, she was a few dollars short. However, someone helped her out and gave her the extra cash. This simple act, while she may not be exact poverty, this simple act of helping someone out down their luck inspires everyone else to go out into the community and do more effective change. So whether that extent of moral obligation for giving to the poor may be something simple or a few dollars, that change is necessary for providing this cycle that will help better our communities. So today, when we look at the prompt, are people morally obligated to give to the poor? The extent which you give is up to you. It's not up to someone to tell you how you have to give or what you have to give. But at the end of the day, giving helps provide selflessness, connection, and a cyclic giving that not only provides personal growth, but helps our communities worldwide and locally. And through this, hopefully we can all go to Yonkers and understand what it means to break out into song. Thank you.
Our second contestant today is Allison Cohen from Chandler Prep Academy. Allison?
Hello, my name is Allison Cohen, spelled ALISONCOHEN. My topic is the first one: are we morally obligated to give to the poor? I want you to imagine you are 9 years old, and your parents want you to wake up at 8:30 on a Sunday morning in order to go to a stuffy building where you have to sing songs in a language you don't understand. That was me when I was 9 years old. My parents desperately implored me to get a Hebrew education, and so they had me go to Sunday school every single week. Now, what I realized looking back on this time in my life is that if not for my Jewish education, and specifically the concept of tzedakah, or the Hebrew word for charity, I would not have become the person I am today. If not for learning about giving back to communities that have given so much to me, I probably wouldn't be standing here today. So when we have the topic, are we morally obligated to give to the poor? The answer is undoubtedly yes. In this speech, we'll look at the what, why, and how of the topic. We'll first understand what has caused the poverty that we've seen in the United States. Then we'll understand why it's so important for us to invest in lower socioeconomic status people. And finally, we'll understand some common sense solutions through looking at the how. Because at the end of the day, we stand our tallest when we reach down to help the lowest of our neighbors. So first, let's begin with the what. What has caused the state of poverty in the United States? It is undeniable that there is a link between identity and socioeconomic status. And that's often because people from diverse backgrounds, African Americans and Latinos, have been shut out from economic opportunity. This has created systems of generational poverty. Even further, we are living in an unparalleled time of economic concentration, meaning that income inequality is at an all-time high. In fact, research shows that nearly 50% of the United States' wealth is concentrated in only 5% of the population. What does this mean? We've created a new class of people called the working poor, people who work every single day and still can't put food on their table. Now we have to ask ourselves, why? Why is it so important to invest in people from lower socioeconomic statuses? Well, research shows that people who are given access to opportunity, especially from middle class and lower middle class backgrounds, are more likely to reinvest those dollars into the economy, more likely to purchase goods and services. On an international level, girls and women who are given access to education and healthcare are more likely to protect their families from malnutrition and disease. They're also more likely to become entrepreneurs. But finally, some of the world's best and brightest are people who came from destitution and poverty and were given access to opportunity. People like Albert Einstein and our current senator, Kyrsten Sinema, were both homeless at one point and were just given a chance. Finally, we have to ask ourselves, how? How is it possible for us to give to those who are impoverished? Well, philosopher from the 19th century, John Rawls, tells us that we should use the veil of ignorance theory. He suggests that we have to act as if we're existing behind a veil of ignorance, as if we don't know what life we're going to be born into, whether it be prince or pauper. Furthermore, giving to people who are poor does not always mean that we have to give dollars. Rather, we can give our time and our voices. Most recently, I just volunteered at a furniture bake in Atlanta and was able to build 10 tables for people who didn't have access to furniture in their homes. We can also use our voices to advocate for a livable minimum wage. At the end of the day, we have power, and we should use it. The United States has always heralded itself as the perpetrator of the American dream. However, for most Americans, the American dream is just a fantasy. It is important for us to give to people who are poor, and I hope you all practice tzedakah. Thank you so much.
Our third contestant today is Nivya Mahesh Krishnan from Hamilton High. Nivya?
Hello, everyone. My name is Nivya Krishnan, and the topic I will be discussing is the question, are people morally responsible to give to the poor? Which, by your laughter, I'm guessing is what everyone else chose to. I pick up on these social cues. Okay. When I attended the Berkeley Speech and Debate Tournament in February of this year, it was truly a life-changing experience. But it was that way because of one singular instance. The team and I one day were walking to the campus to compete, and we passed by a homeless man. Upon seeing this man, one of my teammates immediately reached into her backpack, pulled out a protein bar, and rushed to give it to him. This singular act of kindness changed the way I perceived the gap between the rich and the poor. So when looking at the question, are people morally responsible to give to the poor, we can see that ultimately the answer is yes. Simply because for a community to advance and succeed, each and every one of its members must have the same opportunity to excel. The internal conflict that people face when evaluating this question can be summed up into two questions. The first is, where do I find the time to help others? But the second is, how will this decision impact my life? The impacts of these questions can be seen most notably through Andrew Carnegie. As a titan of the steel industry, Andrew Carnegie dominated the industrial world in the late 1800s. Beyond simply being a businessman, Carnegie preached the gospel of wealth, which stated that the rich indeed and the privileged indeed have an obligation to help and invest money and time into the community in order to provide resources and opportunities for the disadvantaged to succeed. As a result, upon realizing that this gospel of wealth was ultimately beneficial to the community, Carnegie funneled millions of dollars to help others, funding nonprofit organizations, whole houses, settlement houses, in order to truly provide opportunities for everyone to succeed. See, even Andrew Carnegie, as a world-renowned businessman, indeed had the time to help others. But more so, he realized that any positive impact he made on the community was also a positive impact on himself. An effect of this internal conflict that we face, doubting our ability to help others, ultimately closes off a world of opportunities to make a difference. This can be seen with Jane Addams, an average middle-class American woman that grew up in the late 1800s, early 1900s. As a child, she recognized the injustices and the wide gap between the privileged and underprivileged members of the American society. Upon realizing this, she implemented and created Hull House in New York, a settlement house that provided resources including housing and shelter for thousands of Americans. But beyond that, Hull House provided a platform, a way for poor Americans to get access to job opportunities and ultimately to the economy. Jane Addams never doubted her ability to make a difference. I'm sure we've all heard the phrase, "it takes a village," but really, it only takes one individual to inspire a village. There are numerous steps we can take in our community to help others. And the main way we can do this is by simply promoting community outreach, working to build members of our society that not only help other people, but inspire others as well. The first way to do this is to recognize initiatives that currently work to close the gap between the privileged and underprivileged members of society. One example of this is Sunshine Acres Children's Home, a 109-acre lot in Mesa that currently houses over 70 foster children and children of parents who are unable to make ends meet. We can see these organizations often go unnoticed, and because they run on nonprofits and simply on contributions from other individuals, that it is increasingly important to recognize the efforts that they make to improve our society. But the second way to foster community outreach is by creating a conversation in order to get to the root of the problem and to the root of why this gap exists in the first place. A great way to do that is, as an example, is the Chandler Unified School District's Deep Equity Panel, a panel that brings together individuals of different racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic backgrounds in order to stimulate a conversation on why such issues and inequities exist in our community today. By recognizing these initiatives and working to promote a conversation, we can better understand why this gap exists in the first place. So, when considering the question, are people morally responsible to give to the poor, we can ultimately see that as a community of individuals that work with one another, that the best way for us as a group to succeed is to make sure each and every one of us has the same opportunity. Thank you.
Our fourth contestant today is Leila Khan from Scottsdale Prep Academy.
Hello everyone, this is Leila Khan, that is spelled Leila-Khan. And my topic is topic number 5, or should we have imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum imports? Approximately a few months ago, I was told that the integrity of our actions are not tested when times are simple, but merely when times are difficult. And I've seen this message be reverberated in numerous causes today. One of those being in the United States choices of policy. Today, when we see economic conflict arise between the United States and numerous international leaders over the simple matter of protectionism, it has become increasingly clear that the need for soft power has increased, but meanwhile, it isn't being utilized within the status quo. When we look at how the United States, in which as an international and global leader, has the ability to leverage their position in determining the well-being not only of domestic, but also international affairs. The fact of the matter is, when the largest international leaders are having trouble coming to the negotiating table about simple matters, it's become increasingly crucial to be asking today's question of should the United States have imposed steel and aluminum tariffs on other international countries? And the answer to this is no. It's because although the United States is trying to promote protectionism, it is undermining crucial goals in domestic and international affairs, especially within trade. And this thesis is exhibited in 3 main ways. First, because it undermines United States economic leverage and dialogue. Second, because it curbs soft power conducive to a long-term solution. And lastly, because it has destabilizing effects on the trade market. But the first reason why the United States should not have posed tariffs on steel and aluminum imports because of its symbolic meaning and the economic harms that it has on the United States alone. And that is because it decreases the United States' leverage within the market within the first place. And that's because within April of 2018, all the way to October of 2018, what was found is that, in fact, the United States and China's trade deficit has actually increased. And that's because the steel and aluminum tariffs, for example, were also placed on other countries such as the European Union, who were previously allies with the United States. So what has happened is because the tariffs that the United States placed on numerous countries to promote an America First policy, although may have its merits, has undermined the United States' ability. Because instead, other international leaders have turned to China or other sort of countries to produce their trades and transfer their goods instead of turning back to the United States. And so what happens is that the United States has actually decreased its trade and economic leverage in the future, and also its ability to have crucial dialogue. So when it comes to the goal of these tariffs, the goal was merely undermined, and that's why the United States should not have imposed these tariffs. But what is the crucial solution to this? How exactly can we have rehabilitative conditions for the United States to promote economic security in the future? That is going to be secured through long-term dialogue. The problem is that this was a political symbol that the United States' stance is against soft power, and that is conducive to a long-term solution. Because the United States turned away China in March of 2018, when China came to the negotiating table stating that they were willing to decrease unfair trade practices and actually build a relation with the United States within the next month decided to place tariffs on them. That is increasingly problematic because although hard power has worked in the past, we need to be employing it with prudence. And that is why I strongly believe the United States should not have imposed tariffs in the first place, is because it decreases our stance on diplomacy that is conducive to a long-term solution. When we as the United States cannot take prudent actions in terms of economic trade policies, and especially since we're so influential when it comes to geopolitical and economic and domestic affairs, I find it extremely important that we take our actions with wisdom. And seeing how it has decreased our ability to have long-term diplomacy, I would say that we should not have placed tariffs in the first place. But the last reason why I strongly believe that we should not have placed steel and aluminum tariffs is because it has reverberated effects onto different sectors and has destabilized the trade market. For example, because the steel and aluminum tariffs were placed on China and other countries have retaliated on different sectors, such as agriculture. This has harmed United States small businesses from producing and has also increased prices in different countries. That is making it increasingly difficult for these countries to be placing an accurate price tag on these goods. And so when it comes to destabilizing the market, causing political and trade ambiguity, I strongly believe that the United States should not have placed tariffs in the first place. But when we return back to the question of should the United States have placed steel and aluminum tariffs, the answer to this is no. Prudence must be employed. Thank you.
Okay, so now we've heard from the 4 upper division semifinalists, so let's give a round of applause to all of them, please. If you are one of the official judges, please complete your ballot and turn it into Jay or Clay or me. Jay and Clay will then tabulate these and determine the results. Okay, we're back. Randy, can I have you come up, please? We're going to start by awarding the 2 coaches awards. The coaching award is based on the 2 top scoring schools from Monday, ranked on the total points earned by the speakers for each school. So really the teachers really owe it to their kids, and they should have a big party for them. But okay, so our second place winner with a trophy and a check for $250 goes to Gina Mead from Hamilton High School. Gina? And our first place winner with a trophy and a check for $1,000 goes to Andrea Kolich from Arizona School for the Arts. On Monday afternoon, the lower division freshmen and sophomores completed their presentations. Our third place winner receives a trophy and a scholarship for $250 from Desert Ridge High School, Mackenzie Spencer. Our second place winner receiving a trophy and a scholarship for $500 from Perry High School, Caden Dean McDaniel. And our first place winner, receiving a trophy and a scholarship for $1,000 from Arizona School for the Arts, Noah Simmons.
By the way, Noah told me he's wearing his lucky jacket.
Okay, and now the upper division juniors and seniors. You just heard their speeches. In fourth place and receiving a trophy from Scottsdale Prep, Leila Khan. In third place, receiving a trophy and a scholarship for $1,500 from Chandler Prep, Allison Cohen. In second place, and receiving a trophy and a scholarship for $3,000 from Hamilton High, Nivya Krishnan. In first place, and receiving a trophy and a scholarship for $5,000 from Basis Awatuki, Hannah Littler.